Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 3 of the Buffalo Music Mafia. My name is Thomas S. Orwatt Jr. I'm with glammetal.com and rockmusicstar.com.
And I'm Joseph Sudo from rockshowcritique.com. And today, episode 3, we wanted to thank Cowboy Mock Bell, for the great episode last week. If you
Cowboy.
didn't, if you didn't get a chance to see it, you could find it on our YouTube channel. But this week, I got a great idea. With the weather really starting to be nice out there right now, it gives you that feeling that Artpark is just around the corner. And that it just gives you that feel of, you want to go out and be in the summer, in the sunshine, and just enjoying some good music. And, we've covered many shows over this whole series over the years over there. And I go, what better way? Why don't we rank our top 5 shows of all time at that venue there on the Tuesday
Wow,
in the
so
Park
many great
series?
shows. So many great shows, Joe.
Yeah, and I thought about something. I go, we could probably use a special guest, and I'm thinking, who knows Art Park? You know
Special guest for
anybody?
our park? Well,
Yeah.
what about our friend Thom Jennings? He's been like every single show in the last 10 years of our park. I can't
Oh,
think of anyone better than him.
that is perfect. Let's see if we can dial him up.
Thom Jennings, can you hear us? Hey, and there he is, Thom
Hey,
Jennings. Tom, how are
all
you
right.
today? Welcome to the Buffalo Music Mafia.
Wow, as an Irishman, it's always a pleasure to hang out with a couple of mafiosos.
Oh,
Thanks.
yes. We've been
Thanks
called
for
that
having me.
before. No problem, no problem. Tom, the reason we have you as our guest today is, the weather is getting real nice out here in Buffalo, New York. And man, I'm telling you, I am itching to get back to concerts. And Joe had this idea about, well, you know what? Let's talk about our favorite place to go see concerts in Western New York, or one of our favorite places. There's so many. And he said, let's talk about our park and our favorite concerts in our park. And we thought, hey man, you are the man when it comes to Artpark. You've been to pretty much every show that Artpark has had in the last 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I started covering the Tuesday series in 2011. So yeah, 2021 would have been my 10th. Well, technically my 11th season because you count your first season is year 0, so that counts as one. So yeah, I did 10 seasons and then we shut down for COVID. So
Yeah, right. Now let's let all the viewers who don't already know, tell them about who you write for locally.
I my column appears in both the Niagara Gazette and the Lockport Union Sun and Journal. It's part of the Night and Day magazine, which comes out every Thursday. It's also online on both publications as well, both the Lockport and Niagara Gazette.
Yeah. Before we start with our top 5 favorite shows, I just want to go over, for the people who are watching this that aren't from the area that don't know about Artpark. I just want to, let's just talk briefly about some of the great things about Artpark. It is ranked as one of the top 100 amphitheaters in the world, which is pretty incredible. It opened in 1974. It's located in Lewiston, New York. And I even read this. I don't know if you guys heard this, but correct me if I'm wrong. On Wikipedia, it says that the park is created on the site of a former industrial waste dump.
Wow, that I've never heard. I know that you've got the amphitheater, which is where that was originally built for Broadway shows, so that's why it has that kind of deep shell and such great acoustics.
Right.
And then the main stage theater, which is on the opposite side of the hill, was actually an area that they didn't use for anything for years because it got too hot over there, which you guys can appreciate because you've been there on a hot summer night. I mean, it could get very sweltering there. Yeah. So the main stage theater was actually just an afterthought as far as concerts. And it's amazing that in many ways, the main stage theater is the one that people think of when they think of art parks. You say Artpark amphitheater, they think it's that one because the main stage theater is an amphitheater, but in fact, right. it's 2 different venues.
Yeah.
Well, 2 different stages, I should say, within the same venue.
Right. And I think we're going to concentrate mostly on the outdoor amphitheater, yep. which was what they used to do is they've been doing shows there for a while, and it always used to be a free event up until 2011, and they got a little aggressive with some of the talent that they brought in. And 2011, for any music fan, I mean, if you lived in Western New York, you definitely went to Artpark that year. They had great concerts. And what had happened was they had a Leonard Skynyrd play, and they drew like 30,000 people, which was way too much for that area to handle. And then the following week, they had ZZ Top, which had even more people, 31,000. And from that point on, they kind of decided, we got to rethink this. And they started charging admission.
Well, I'm actually going to correct a myth for you, Tom, because I had to do I did a lengthy feature on the history of Artpark for the 25th anniversary, and I interviewed George Osborne, who was the sort of the mastermind of Artpark. So, funny thing is that, and there's a couple anecdotal things with this as well. So, the 30,000 figure was just basically pulled out of the air. There was no way that they could determine how many people. In fact, you can look on, I think it's Grand Funk Railroad site, and they talk about a show that they had in Lockport in that Ulrich Square where they had like 40,000 people. You ain't fit 40,000 in there. No. So Artpark, when they started charging for tickets, they obviously they started counting heads. They didn't count heads for Skynyrd. They didn't count heads for ZZ Top. And they max out with tickets now at 9,900. So an uncomfortable level on a good day would have been 15,000, but there's no way it was anywhere near 30,000 people for either one of those shows. But in all honesty, I think that they would have gone that direction anyway, as far as the charging, because at that point they were already selling some of the premium, front of stage and the boxes and all that other stuff. And those acts were, they were getting to the point where they just weren't cheap anymore. I mean, the reason those shows were free is because your classic rock kind of fell out of favor. And I think it's weird. People have an age where they just don't have expendable income. And there's two groups that you want to hit. One is the people before they have kids, they have expendable income and they'll go to concerts. And then you have those family years where you kind of don't go to concerts. And you'll notice if you look at the trajectory of a band during, when they're when the fan base is at that age, their attendance dips. And then they start coming back right around the time they get older and have a little bit more expendable income. So now ZZ Top, Leonard Skynyrd, a lot of those people that were going to those shows were people that didn't have a lot of expendable income, but they could see them for free.
Yeah.
Now those people are getting towards retirement age. And I mean, you've seen what's happened to ticket prices, at least before COVID. ZZ Top, we're seeing them for free, $20 for a premium seat. And now you're not going to touch them anywhere for under 80 to, $100. I mean, what were Rolling Stone tickets the last time that they came, or they were scheduled to be at the stadium?
I spent $200 and I was across the stage. It was insane.
Yeah. So that's the thing. A lot of it depends on the age, but again, the acts that they got that year, they got a good price on them. The Leonard Skynyrd show. Were you guys both there for that one?
I did not know.
Oh no, not that one. I don't think.
Yeah, it was insane. Like there was a lot of people that just didn't get in. That was part of the problem. And then ZZ Top, I think ZZ Top actually had less attendance. I don't know why they said that they had more. ZZ Top, it had a little bit of a different audience. There was a lot of motorcyclists there, so I think more people could kind of get in the parking lot. But the funnier part is that the Edgar Winter show, which was right after the two of them. And I remember, I go to ZZ Top, I go to Leonard Skynyrd, you can't move in the place. Everybody's freaking out. Like the Skynyrd show, they almost didn't let me in. And I was like, I had to show my press pass. I'm like, I'm covering some newspaper, you got to let me in. And I had to wait about 20 minutes before somebody let me in the gates. And I got in to cover the show. Then I go there for the Edgar Winter show. And I go in there and it looks like a nuclear bomb has gone off. There's maybe 300 people at this show. I mean, it's funny because that year is the year where there was by far the most people, but there was by far the least people that I've ever seen at a show. And I mean, can you imagine Artpark with 300 people? I mean, it looks like a picnic, Yeah. And Edgar Winter, put on a good show, but I think that too speaks to sort of the nature of what the business was like that year as well. So you had your budget for the whole year. You spend a little extra cash on the ZZ Top and Skynyrd shows, but then you you wind up getting a few cheapies along the way. Because I would
Right.
imagine Edgar Winter probably cost a tenth of what those bands cost at that time.
Exactly. All right, well, let's start doing what we're here to do now that we got all this Artpark information and let everybody know about it here, Tom. What we're doing here is the three of us are going to pick our top 5 Tuesday in the Park Artpark shows over the whole series lifetime history here. It wasn't easy to do, but Thom Jennings, go ahead and start us off. And what was your number 5?
Oh my goodness, not easy to do is correct. I think I told you when we chatted on the phone that number 1 was not a problem at all, but it was the other ones that were a little bit harder. So my number 5 is July 1st, 2003. And that is the actually the very first Tuesday in the Park show ever. And it was Rick Emmett of Triumph. And Rick was, still is a personal favorite. He's my favorite artist, Todd Rundgren, but Rick and Triumph is a close second. And that show was just great. It was a lot of fun. And I think that it was an important show because it really kind of proved that the model could work. You could take a rock band, it could draw some families, because Rick's music, Triumph's music is very kind of uplifting. It's not, dangerous, bunch of stoners getting high in the park and things like that. And it really just kind of set the stage for what that Tuesday in the Park event or series could be. So sentimental favorite. I took all 3 of my kids to it. One of my favorite artists and the very first show of the series. So, I mean, certainly it had to appear on the list somewhere. So that's my number 5.
Wow. Awesome. Well, I just want to say in full disclosure, I've been to many Artpark shows, not as many as these guys over here. So I was a little more selective in who I picked. And number 5 for me, and it was difficult, even with the few shows I did see at Artpark, is Ted Nugent. And it was his first time playing Artpark, and it will be his last time playing Artpark because he was out of his mind on this particular show. It was August 16th in that year, 2011. And Ted was out of control. Derek St. Holmes was back in the band. They had a great crowd. They said, and of course, now that I know, what you said earlier, Tom, about the actual attendance they were announcing, they said 25,000 for this. So probably maybe 11,000 in reality.
Yeah.
But Nugent was, he offers different types of shows. When you book him, you can get an R-rated show. You can get his PG-13 rated show. Artpark must overlook that because this was a full-on maybe NC-17 show. He was throwing out profanity left and right. He was being offensive to the Canadian fans. He was saying horrible things about the Obama administration, calling them a bunch of CSs, and don't know what that. Yeah, so it was great though. I loved it. Great set list. All the hits and everything. Great show, but he'll never play Artpark again. So that was my number 5.
All right. Well, my number 5 is going to be the Cheap Trick show that took place on July 19th. And of course, 2011, that magical year there. This show was special in that the fact that 2 days prior to this show, Cheap Trick had played a show at the Ottawa Blues Fest in Ontario, and they barely got off the stage before it collapsed.
That's right.
Mishap there, weather, wind picked up, all kinds of problems over there. Just amazing that they were able to come here, shake off that prior, because this was the first show after that. They had Monday off, came in for the Tuesday in the Park show, put on a stellar show like the seasoned professionals that they are. Played a great set. Still managed to kick in some rare songs like Didn't Know I Had It, Tonight It's You, Borderline. Just great stuff from a great band. And thank God they escaped that one because that was not pretty. I think Rick even lost one of his guitars over a couple guitars, I guess actually in that stage collapse. So just a great show though. That's my number 5.
Hey, Mr. Jennings, number 4 for you.
Yeah. Oh, a quick note on that Cheap Trick show, by the way, too, Joey, is that the guitars, all the guitars were held back because of insurance reasons, and they had to bring in guitars from the house guitars. So that was kind of cool. Number 4 for me, Bad Company. Bad Company, man. I mean, Paul Rogers, do we need to say anything more? He's just the quintessential rock star. And that was 2013, July 16th. They played there later, and it was a great show. But the thing about the 2013 show is they had Mick Ralphs, who was their original guitarist, who is not with him anymore. And Mick's an important part of that band. I mean, he's great guitarist. So that show was pretty special. And Rogers, God, I mean, his vocals just like every night, just spot on.
Okay. My number 4 was Whitesnake, and a great opening act, Whitford St. Holmes, which of course is Brad Whitford and Derek St. Holmes band. Brad Whitford, of course, from Aerosmith, and Derek St. Holmes from Ted Nugent, who I just previously mentioned. It was on June 28th, 2016. Kind of like an overcast day, but still it was a perfect day for a perfect Artpark day. It was the Whitesnake's greatest hits tour, so they pretty much stuck to that. They did do Sailing Ships, which segued into Judgment Day, which I thought was really cool. Whitesnake has great musicians. Reb Beach, Joe Holstra on guitar. Tommy Aldridge actually played a great drum solo, which, usually drum solos, I mean, who wants to watch those? But this one was spectacular. Still the Night was their encore. Great set list. Started off the show with Bad Boys. And then Whitford St. Holmes, like I said, with being a big Ted Nugent and Aerosmith fan. I mean, I love them when this was their reunion record, their first record in I think like 31 years. And so it's great to actually see them because I didn't see them originally when they came out. And they played 5 songs off their reunion record, which was the record they were promoting. Also did a medley of Aerosmith, which consists of Last Child and Train Kept Rolling. And of course, Derek St. Holmes did Stranglehold. So, it was a great show. I really, loved that. And I like both bands equally. Yeah.
All right. Well, that actually was my number 3 as well. So I'm going to get 2 shots here. I'm going to get my number 3 out of the way here. Pretty much, Thomas, you nailed everything that I was going to say about that same exact show. They hardly ever played Sailing Ships. So to get that song, and the way it molded right into Judgment Day, just like you said, it was impeccable. Whether I like the fact that it wasn't sunny and hot, because those shows can be very uncomfortable. This show the weather was perfect. You were able to sit back, enjoy the show. And Reb Beach and Holstra, they're a great tandem. They feed off each other very well, very complimentary. And like you said, Tommy Aldridge, at his age, to be still performing solos like that, that's something else. So that was my number 3. So going back to my 4th one, my number 4 was actually Starship featuring Mickey Thomas.
Wow.
Not a very well-attended show. It was very light compared to some of those shows. This goes back to July of 2009. But the thing I really liked about it was it was nonstop, song after song, and it just kicked butt. Highlight of the night was actually where they actually dug deep and went through the whole Jefferson Starship songs that have passed, and did a killer medley, which featured Stephanie Calvert, who's his new singer. She did Somebody to Love and White Rabbit in Grace Slick-like fashion and just tore it up. And then they did Miracles and Runaway, I think it was. Yeah, Miracles and Runaway during that medley. And Mickey wasn't even around for that era. So for him to actually incorporate that into his set list, on top of all the other, songs that he's known for, like Jane and Find Your Way Back and Laying It on the Line, that show just stood out for me. Really enjoyed it. Excellent show. So that's my number 4.
Okay, now number 3, Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Jennings, so formal. I appreciate it.
We are very formal at the Buffalo Music Mafia.
Very formal. You're making me an offer I can't refuse. Number 3 is Huey Lewis in the News, and man, this was a great show. July 3rd, 2012. What made this show special is there was a guy on stage named Doc Robinson, and he was from a band called King Harvest. They were a one-hit wonder that were actually from Ithaca, New York, of all places. But the guy, Doc Robinson, was living in Olcott, so he happened to live in the area. And they did the song Dancing in the Moonlight. And the video's up online. It's actually gotten like 100 some odd thousand views, because it's rare that, King Harvest and Huey Lewis get together. Come to find out, Huey Lewis went to Cornell for 2 years, and that's how he got to know the guys in King Harvest. So Huey Lewis, Mr. San Francisco, is also Mr. Ithaca, New York. So that's kind of a cool side story. But Huey just always puts on a great show. I've seen him multiple times, and he had me backstage too. He was super nice. We had a great conversation, and I don't know, perfect show for that venue.
Yeah, that was a great show. I was there too, and there's just something special about those like shows that are close to the 4th of July. For me, I just love that whole like party atmosphere, and that also was the concert that I feel like took my greatest concert photo ever. And it's so great that I haven't even published it yet. I'm gonna wait for a special day for this, but it's like the ultimate picture of Huey Lewis.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy about that. So my number 3, and thanks to Joe, mine was Cheap Trick, of course, same date. July 17, 2011. And, you know, Joe, like he said a lot, pretty much what I was going to say about the like 48 hours before they nearly escaped death. And, Rick Nielsen, like, you know, made some comments about that during the show. It was really, really funny. What I liked about that show is there were so many people in front of the stage that after I shot the show, I went to the side of the stage and actually sat to the side of the stage and watched from the side of the stage, which I was really surprised that they let me do there. But it was cool because Rick kept leaving the stage and coming out by us and playing guitar. Robin Zander came off the stage once and was like singing right next to me. I mean, it was a really cool experience. And that was definitely my number 3.
Okay, so I already did my number 3, so we go down to Thom Jennings for number 2, getting down to the nitty gritty.
Down to the nitty gritty. August 25th, 2009. You know, Tom, you were talking about times a year that you like going to Artpark shows. My favorite's actually late August, and the reason is that I like it when it gets dark when the headliner comes on. You know, I love to be able to see the lights for the headliner. But my number 2 on that date, it was none other than Mr. Artpark himself, Peter Frampton. Frampton played Artpark numerous times, always just killed it there. You could just tell he loved the venue. That particular show was like after, you know, Frampton's career kind of ebbed and flowed, and he was just starting to kind of come back in, and people were really starting to respect and appreciate him as an artist again. And it was just magic. And I how many times did he play there, Joe? You think 4 or 5, maybe?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in that neighborhood for sure.
I mean, it just always put on a great show. Just always brought his A game. And it was funny during the anniversary, they did this video thing, and he sent a message to me. He's like, "Oh, great, it's the anniversary. And you don't invite me," you know, because he was such a kind of a, you know, big deal for the Tuesday series. So that one will live on as a show that was very memorable, as are all the Frampton shows. I absolutely loved them.
Yeah, the thing about Frampton is that even the years that he didn't play Artpark, he still found someplace to play in the Western New York area. So I mean, there was a streak where you could see Peter Frampton pretty much like every single year for a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. So number 2 for me is, this was a great show. This brought back so many like memories of like the 90s for me, when I used to see Van Halen and Sammy Hagar at the front of Van Halen. He put on the greatest show. And I'm talking about the Sammy Hagar Night Ranger show of June 4th, 2019. It was opening day for the 2019 series. And opening day is also a really cool show. There's always a cool vibe. So, I mean, going right into it, it was like, I was so psyched. And after a long, horrible winter, it was nice to get outside again. Only 5,500 people for the show, which was kind of surprising. They had Night Ranger as the support act, which was, you know, I mean, it was a great double bill. Hagar was on his full circle jam tour. Michael Anthony was in the band. Jason Bonham was in the band on drums. Vic Johnson on guitar. Just a great party atmosphere, like Sammy always provides. He was kicking back quite a few on stage. Just a crushing 2-hour-long set. Night Ranger did a great opening act. I mean, I think Night Ranger's like the best opening band in the world. I mean, you know, they're not, unfortunately, I feel they should be, but they're not really at the point where they can, you know, headline Artpark, but they're a great opening act. So that was number 2 for me.
All right. Well, that brings us to my number 2, which August 16th, 2016. Who can forget this show? Without a doubt, Styx. This is, they played Artpark a few times, but this is definitely my favorite Styx show that I've ever been to. because of the proximity to Canada, the closeness, they actually played A Criminal Mind, the great Gowan song from his solo career, and it was just simply magical because I never got to see them do that one before. That was the first time for me. And man, to see it in the outdoor setting as the sun was, everything was going down, it just phenomenal atmosphere. They played Lights, which was another song I had never seen live up until that point. And, and I seen them probably about 7-8 times up to that point. So it was cool to see songs that I haven't seen them sung before live. And then possibly the best version of Crystal Ball I've ever witnessed in live performance. And that one, I've definitely seen Tommy take off on that one many a times. But that song is definitely my favorite Styx song. And they don't play it every show, but it was great that they played it that night. And it was just an overall great experience for me. Styx at number 2.
Awesome. So here it is, number 1. You guys ready?
Drum roll.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. There's a drummer. All right, Tom, what do you have for us? Number 1.
Oh, well, before we get to that, you guys brought up some great memories for me as well. Hopefully we brought up some great memories for people that are listening too. I mean, I think that's what's important about these kind of list things. It's like, if they're not perfect per se, but man, it's like Joey talked about that Styx show just brought me right back there, and that Sammy Hagar show, same thing. And the attendance with the Hagar had to do with the ticket prices, I think, and competition too. 2019 was a pretty packed year. All right, without any further ado, as the French say, my numero uno show. I will be shocked if either one of you remember this because I don't think you were there. The date, August 24th, 2018, Government Mule.
Wow.
And I tell you, it's interesting. Now, Government Mule's a jam band, so their typical night's performance would usually be around 2.5, 3 hours, 2 sets, whatever. They were performing. They had Lucas Nelson with him, who was the opening act, Willie Nelson's son. So there was a torrential downpour. It was raining buckets. So everybody had to evacuate the amphitheater after the opening set by Nelson, which was an early set. It was like 6:30. And we had to sit in the amphitheater proper to stay out of the lightning for almost 2 hours. Now, they didn't get on stage till 9:45 p.m., which is by far the latest show that's ever started at Artpark on a Tuesday. They were given a variance to play till about 10:30. So it was a very abbreviated set. So since they knew that they had to kind of get it in, instead of, the kind of jammy, long, Allman Brothers type thing, they just hit the throttle and just blew through the set. It was mind blowing. It was so the intensity and the fact that, so many of us had sat through the rain, you're all wet, and Haynes is like, thanks for sticking through the rain. And it was just one of those moments where artist and fan felt that synergy, that pure magic, so that was my numero uno. Probably one of the best shows I've ever seen, period. Not just
That's awesome. My number 1, of course, I'm like in this Aerosmith rabbit hole I can't get out of. And it's Steven Tyler and the Love and Mary Band. I mean, just the fact that I could see Steven Tyler at Artpark, like it blew my mind when they announced that show. I mean, I could not wait. That was like the only concert I cared about, up until that show. It was mind blowing that he would play there. Now he was solo. He took a break from Aerosmith. He had a great band, the Love and Mary Band, backing him, a Nashville-based band that consisted of Rebecca Lynn Howard on bass, who's a songwriter, and also Marty Fredrickson, who's a Aerosmith collaborator, wrote a lot of songs with them. And 9,000 people for the show. It was the first show of the season. Steven Tyler is 7 years old, like just has so much energy, blows away a lot of people half his age. Awesome set list, opened with Sweet Emotion, played Crying, Living on the Edge, Jaded, Dream On, Walk This Way, ended with Whole Lot of Rosie, ended with A Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin. It would have been cool if they did A Whole Lot of Rosie, but that's a whole different other rabbit hole of AC/DC, but we'll say that for another episode. And so that was my number 1, Steven Tyler and the Love and Mary Band. Awesome show and one of my favorite concerts I've ever witnessed in my life. All right, Joey.
All right. This is the big moment we've all been waiting for, the final number 1 selection here. And this one, we were all at this show. I remember that perfectly. This show was definitely the number one for me. September 8th, late show, probably one of the latest ever Artpark shows, 2015. None other than Peter Wolf and the J. Giles Band, the Bad Boys from Boston, the original Bad Boys from Boston.
How many original guys were there on stage that night?
Yeah.
Everybody but Jay Giles, because wasn't Jay Giles dead by then?
No, he was just not in the band after like 2013, but
that's crazy.
Yeah. But anyhow, so this ended up being, at least as it stands right now, if they never play another live show again, that was actually the third last Jay Giles Band show ever. So, you know, I kind of hope that they don't play again, because then we'll have even more of a special memory, because, you know, who would have thought, as on top of the game as they were that night, who would have thought they only did 2 other shows and, you know, they just haven't gotten back together for whatever reason. Fabulous show, featured songs throughout the whole career, going way back to the debut of 1970, songs that a lot of people might not be familiar with. And they did play a lot of the 80s songs, which was cool, because they've played the area a couple times over the years where they didn't really do too many of the 80s songs, but they standouts for me that night were Just Can't Wait, Freeze Frame, and obviously Must Have Got Lost, the encore, which brought the house down. That show, Peter Wolf showed why he is considered one of the best frontmen of all time. And, you know, and we got a good bonus to boot, because opening the show was Ian Hunter and the Ramp Band, a new band that he had started up, you know, obviously after his old band that he had. But he got the party started, so to speak. And, you know, it's a great show, you know, that's for me always will stand out, at least until somebody else can knock it off. That's my number one.
All right, cool. Hey, guys, before we end this, I have a question for both of you, okay? What do you think our chances of shooting shows this year, this summer at Artpark are right now as we stand here on, what's the date? March 23rd, 2021. How's it looking? What's your prediction?
Joey, what do you got?
I just don't see it happening unless they're going to do some really smaller acts where you can spread the people out, maybe. And is it really feasible where they can actually pull it off for, you know, all the costs involved? You know, at this point, you know, usually by now people know of all the schedules. Usually everybody's been announced, any bookings, but there's so much limbo going on right now. It's really up in the air, I would say.
Spurt, what do you think?
I'm going to be a little more optimistic. I'm going to put it at about 80%. I'm going to base this on a conversation I had with Dave Wedekint at Artpark. And, you know, I know they're looking at bringing in some kind of 1,000 to 2,000 seat draws so that they could set it up for, you know, social distancing and things like that. And what really makes me optimistic is the fact that Batavia Downs announced their series. If Batavia Downs hadn't announced, I'd be like, but you know, that's a big field. And so they know they can spread people out. The only wild card, it's interesting you asked, are we going to shoot any shows? Because my, you know, if the pandemic's still kicking, they may not want photographers in there because there may be limited seats. Certainly getting to shoot from the pit probably isn't going to happen. But I think Artpark's going to pull it off because there's a lot of acts that want to play. So they have a lot to choose from. It's not like, you know, it's not like a year where bands can be particularly choosy. So if there's somebody that Artpark goes after, they're probably going to get them. And I would assume that they're going to be flexible in terms of not just having to be on Tuesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going to do what they have to do to bring live music back this year under whatever circumstances that they can. That amphitheater holds 9,000. If you're looking at, if the state gives them the green light for 50% capacity, you're looking at, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 attendees a show, which in reality, I mean, let's face it, once the ticket prices went up, there were a lot of shows in that range.
And that's all they were drawing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and that was okay. You know, it was a more comfortable experience than it was when the place was packed. So I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing. And, you know, but I tell you, the real wild card is just like, who's, you know, what's going to happen to concert ticket prices? I mean, you could make the argument both ways. They're going to be expensive because they couldn't tour and they need to make more money. But economics says if, supply and demand, supply of artists that are going to be on the road trying to make money, it might actually just drive the cost down, but we just won't see the huge productions that we did, which again, I mean, that's okay with me. I'm fine with it.
Right.
Yeah. I'll take as long as I get to stand in front of a stage sometime this summer.
Well, I attended a live show Sunday in Chicago for Todd Rundgren for 30 people. And let me tell you, it's the first like real show that I'd been at in a year. And it's like, you guys know, man, we're guys that go to a lot of shows, and to have been away this long is pretty difficult. And it was a pretty emotional experience for me on Sunday, not just seeing my favorite artists, but just being able to see a real show in a real theater with full production was like, wow, dude. Like, I missed it so much. And I think it would be, last summer might've been a break for all of us at some level. We kind of were able to do some things with our families and everything, but I miss hanging out with you guys and all of our little circle of friends. And, I just miss that experience, that kind of communal experience. And I hope when fans get back there, they appreciate it. And you get a little less of those people that just show up to get drunk and smoke weed and ruin the experience for everybody in the general vicinity, because it was kind of getting like that the last few years at Artpark. You had, I don't know if I can't speak for you guys, but it began to get a little more difficult in that front of the stage area with people that were just being idiots, being drunk and talking, not enjoying the show. And it kind of ruins your experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Well said, Tom. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much for being our guest on this episode. And you know what, Joe, I think we're going to have to ask him again. He knows his stuff, man.
Yeah, we'll have to get some more interesting topics picked up here so we can use him and have some of our other media friends that are out there. If you're watching, drop us a line and we'll give us some ideas. We're always open to ideas on these episodes because we want, it's all about a two-way communication. We want to give you guys something that you might want to see, questions you might have about, anything Buffalo music related. That's why it's Buffalo Music Mafia.
All right. On that note, good night, everyone. Thank you again, Tom.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It really was quite an honor. I appreciate it.